However, when I started this little jewelry business, I never imagined in a million years that I would be the jewelry lady or have a profession take over my life with this little kit of jewelry. When I started, my sister Candy here, she is my Premier Mama as well as my sister. She introduced me to Premier. However, I had never heard of Premier prior to that. And a little background, thanks guys. That's perfect. I'm used to whiteboard. Before Candy introduced me to Premier, all right, I had gone through some things, and I'm going to be kind of open and transparent with y'all. I think it's important that you understand a little bit more about me in depth. Before I started Premier, and before Candy told me about it, I had been going through a very difficult phase in my life. I was in a marriage and living life like everybody does, you know, the day-to-day thing, and you think you're just fine, whatnot. You don't consider anything else. In fact, I was battling all the ins and outs of 2 daughters and a son and just the everyday walk. And I was in a church, and I started to have these feelings, this pull, and I didn't understand what it was. And I would go to church, and I would leave crying. And my husband says to me, "What in the world is wrong with you? Why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, I'm feeling this pull," and the pull was God talking to me. I just didn't understand that at the time. But so I felt this pull every time I was at church. I had grown up in a church. I had been raised in a Christian home and always knew where God was, but I didn't fully live my life the way I needed to. So the pull I was feeling was God telling me, "I want more for you." So I started praying specifically, "God, where do you want me? What do you want for my life?" I felt kind of void in my life. And so part of that was I would be at church and, you know, they were taking up ministry offerings and doing trips for ministries and things like that. And I never could afford to do that. Nor did I have the time to do it with 3 children. So that was part of my prayer, is that God opened a door for me that I could potentially help somebody somewhere and show me direction. Well, y'all, God showed me direction. I don't know how long it was, but I had dealt with many, many, many months of turmoil in my family. Shoot, my sister would probably tell you it was years. Anybody needed something to laugh about or some drama, call Tammy, because I had it. But one day, I got the shock of my life when my husband told me he no longer wanted to be married. And it wasn't because he just didn't love me anymore. He found somebody else. And so at that point in my life, and I know y'all are thinking, "Why are you telling me this when we're talking about jewelry? And you came here to train on jewelry." Well, this is extremely, extremely important for y'all to understand me and my passion, okay? God took me through a turn that nobody would ever ask for. He brought me to my knees when I begged and begged and begged a human being to never leave me. He brought me so low to where all I could do was look to the sky and say, "God, I cannot do it anymore. I need your help." And do you know, if you know me, I'm a control freak, and that was when God was jumping up and down. Hallelujah, I've been telling you all these years, turn to me and I will help you. And so God brought me through this by taking me through a horrific event in my life. And in the midst of it, my sister is in my ear. "I got this jewelry business I'm starting. I need you to come to my training show." What? I don't have time for all that. I'm trying to piece my marriage together. Hold on a second. She's begging me, "You got to come to my show." Well, nobody in my family other than my sister and confidant knew what was going on. So I go to this show, and it's at that show where I opened up and told my family that my husband was leaving me. And within a few short months, that was all over. But poor Brooke, she's my Premier grandma. She's out there hanging out while we're all in the back room, and I'm boo-hooing my eyes out. She comes to the door. "Y'all okay in here?" And Candy's like, "Y'all gonna buy anything?" Y'all gonna buy anything? Okay? So we got her show done. In the midst of that show, I heard Brooke talking about what Premier was and what it stood for. And it touched me. But I didn't realize how much it touched me at that point in time. 1 year later, God had not only cleared my life for me of my heartache, He had opened the door to me for Premier. And I came into Premier because, and I'm not going to go into this detail, but I remarried. God put a man into my life just when I needed him to take care of me and my children. And we married. He's a wonderful, godly man. And when we married, we blended 5 children together. And that was a time when I said, you know, I need extra money. We had 4 children that were teenagers and then a younger child. And so I said to my sister, tell me about this Premier thing again. I think I want to try to do this. I had waited tables for years. Anytime I needed extra money, I would go back to serving. And she says, try this. So I did. And within my first year of Premier, we got pregnant and decided we were going to have a little baby. I know we did it on purpose, y'all. We have a 3-year-old. He'll be 4 this month. And then I have a 13-year-old. We have 3 19-year-olds and a 22-year-old between the 2 of us. We have a crazy family and a huge need for Premier. So within that first year, I'm being blessed. I had a full-time job, working Premier 1 day, maybe 2 a week, sometimes depending on if I was that excited about jewelry or not. So I was working my business consistently. I worked in the mortgage industry. Well, y'all know what happened to the mortgage industry. About the time I started my business, that one went south. They had offered me a position to be able to stay at home and to be a fully commissioned loan officer, and I thought, this is fabulous. Here I am, I'm pregnant, I can lay by the pool, take phone calls to do my Premier business, and go right up a loan too. This is awesome. Well, then the market crashed, and I didn't have that availability anymore. Nobody wanted to do a loan with me. So it meant I had to get on that phone and work my Premier business. So I kicked my butt in gear and started working a lot. I did a couple shows a week, sometimes 3, in order to pay our bills. There was no turning back for me. It wasn't an option to go get another job because I'm having a baby and I'm not working full time. Well, in the process of doing all of that, not only had I lost my income from my full-time job, Premier became that source for me to just keep the bills going. My husband was in the building industry too, so we took a double nosedive. And so Premier became a way for us to not just pay bills, it was to keep the roof over our head and everything else along with it. So I became very passionate about what Premier was and shared like hotcakes. I was on the phone, I wanted to meet with people and tell them how God had blessed my life with this company, that through a little jewelry show we could make such incredible money and support our families. Now, in the process of doing all of that too, y'all, so many things happened to us. I prayed for God. Take my house if you want it. It's 4 walls. I love my home, but it is 4 walls. Whatever your will be, let it be done. And do you know what? He has opened the doors to my home for our trainings. We have a home that we are now able to have a monthly training, and we do our LC trainings in my home. I never would have imagined that I was giving it back to him because it was 4 walls to me. But God took care of my family. He has allowed us to have a home. He's allowed us to have a business through Premier and to touch other lives in the process through jewelry. This is why I'm passionate about what I do. I do my shows. I do about 100 shows a year or more, not because I want recognition. I have to have that to pay my bills. Does anybody else need Premier for bills? I look forward to the day. I remember the day I told Julie Stewart, I said, I want to retire like you. She says, retire? Yes, this to me is retirement. I love the fact that I can run around, do jewelry shows, hang out with women, get away from the night, from my kids at night, because, y'all, that's a blessing, too. You're home all day with them, you got to go. I'm leaving. So this is a huge blessing, and I look forward to the day where I don't have to work as many shows, and I'm able to let my husband pull back from what he does. But for now, it is a season, and if I have to do 100 shows a year, I am thankful that I don't have to beg an employer for more hours. And so y'all can do the same thing with yours, okay? Now, here's what I want to do.